Asset management, whether it be DAM or its subsets, PAM and MAM, rarely get the attention they deserve. While asset management may not be the first thing on your mind when planning your facility or project, digital asset management is what allows us to organize and quickly find our ever-growing list of files. But it's more than just a card catalog. Kids, look that one up. It's also a way to automate otherwise routine tasks, as well as glue together many separate technologies into a unified, complete, end-to-end solution. It's so much more than a search tool. When it comes to asset management, there is no one with more experience or time spent in the media space. Today we have the high-def cowboy himself, Bryson Jones. Thanks for joining us, Bryson. I appreciate your time today.
Hey, man. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's always fun to do these events with you, man. So should be a good time.
Bryson, the realm of asset management is as wide as it is deep. We've got MAM, PAM, DAM, lots of similar acronyms, but certainly different functions. I thought before we dive into the granular details of asset management and automation and what the trends are, if we could better define what asset management is. It's a very broad topic, and many folks still working through it. How would you define it?
Yeah, well, and that's a great one because you hear this all the time, and it's funny. Even the vendors themselves, a lot of times, use different terms for the same product. I want to start with a great definition that I love, and this is just something, it's something off of Wikipedia, a guy named A.J. Van Niekerk that I found, and I'll read it for you off my screen. It's digital asset management, or DAM, consists of management tasks and decisions surrounding the ingestion, annotation, cataloging, storage, retrieval, and distribution of digital assets. And for me, that definition really, really sums it up, because if you notice, they cover all the steps that we do. And you've been somebody that's really key on that a client needs to understand that DAM is not necessarily a software, but it's a whole thing together, and it includes a lot of process. I love the fact that they mention the decisions, because the people watching this probably have to make decisions for their company about how they're going to do all of those actions.
Well, Bryson, proper bang for the buck asset management is quite different than the frequently commoditized media industry. You can now buy components off the shelf for your editing or VFX or audio system, but tightly integrated asset management is still pretty difficult. I like to say it's not like a shiny new Mac. It requires due diligence and a strategic plan for the best integration. How are you on North Shore Automation guiding clients and making the smart asset management decisions, and what are they?
Well, as you know, that was one of the things that we were really, we innovated on in sort of the less expensive DAM space, is that we looked at what the enterprise DAM guys were doing in the $1 million plus and putting together consulting packages, so you get the documentation and the training and the consulting before you deploy. One of the big key things that we're seeing more and more and more this year, and it's one of my notes on is that people in computer science use application programming interface, an API, and people see that all the time as a buzzword. And really, all that is that's the way that applications speak to one another, and it's really becoming key in this world that your DAM is able to talk to other products. And if you look at what all the manufacturers are doing, they all have a partner page, and they all talk about having these multiple systems integrate. What that means, though, is it means that your deployment team and your reseller need to understand all of those things. So if you go to a company that really only does DAM and they don't handle archiving or distribution or any of the automations, you're going to run into trouble.
Bryson, you mentioned disparate pieces of technology, and you mentioned APIs. Are you seeing that various manufacturers are making themselves more open so companies like North Shore can combine technologies within the DAM for a more complete end-to-end workflow as opposed to an island?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what we're also finding is that that's becoming a requirement for the clients. Clients are now asking. 4 or 5 years ago, nobody was asking us that question. And now clients are very savvy. They're saying, well, wait a minute, does this work with this? And so I think that as the customers and the resellers become more savvy, the manufacturers are ready for that. And I think we'll see more and more of that this year.
So Bryson, tying everything together on the back end from a technical perspective is fantastic. But it still has to be user accessible, Someone has to look at all this data and content and media and control things. So what are you seeing in terms of making all of this data and media and automation available to someone who isn't technical and may just be a creative?
Well, that was the other thing. And we call that DAM 2.0 internally. what I saw and was early on, and that's, North Shore's really focused on this, is that distribution is really king. The people writing the checks and the people who are, the customers of these content creators in the world, they should be served. And so I see a focus more and more on simplified DAM products, but even beyond that, DAM products integrating with simpler, interfaces so that people can simply email somebody a clip, or you can, someone who can operate YouTube or Vimeo can find media. Simplification is a big, big deal. Simplification key for 2015, and distribution.
Well, Bryson, that brings up a really good point. If you look at the history of asset management, well, at least in the past 15 years, because, asset management at one point was a card catalog, but if we look at the past 15 years, getting assets into a database where you can view them is, I don't want to call it old hat, but that's something that's been done from day one. That's the foundation of any decent asset management solution on the market. So the newer features you're seeing customers ask for and what you end up deploying, would you say it's not only being able to tag and search and retrieve, but also to archive? Does it include transcoding, remote viewing? If I can call it that, what's the new sexy in terms of asset management?
It's really fun. We talk about selling the dream, right? And selling the dream is that the boss is on, at their place in the Hamptons on Friday in the afternoon, and they can check in and see something, right? And that's the dream, the executive dream that we all talk about. That used to be really hard to provide. So mobile access, internet access is a big deal. I think a huge hot button this year, owing to watching the news recently, is going to be security. Being able to do that securely, that's going to be a real concern. The other side you mentioned is archiving. Archiving's always been a big deal, but the archiving systems now are fast and they're reliable and they really, really work now. So it's no longer frustrating, which brings us again, that simplification, right? Up until now, we joke, it's like it took a college degree or took an engineering degree to operate the dam. And in the end of the day, that's not in the real world. Those are not the people who are running the dam. And I see that as a big deal.
Well, Bryson, I think that any good technologist, as well as any good manufacturer, can't be reactive. They have to be proactive, which means thinking ahead of the clients, thinking about what's coming out of the horizon. So, Bryson, if you were talking to prospective clients and you wanted to prepare them for implementing asset management and automation, what things would you say, hey, here are the things that you should be thinking about prior to jumping in and adding asset management and automation in 2015?
It's basic, and we say it all the time. I travel the country, giving talks on this. It's one, understand your process as it stands. Get a picture of what you're doing now. Oftentimes, management thinks they know what's going on, but you really need to get out in the trenches and talk to your editors and your assistant editors and your artists and say, hey, what's actually happening? Where are our assets now? And how many do we have? Get that together. How are you naming things and storing them is really key. So setting up and understanding your manual process is the first step to then automating the process. Clean it up before the software gets there and make sure that everyone is working consistently. That's a key thing.
Bryson, that's fantastic advice, man. Thank you. I'm looking forward to working more with you this year and looking forward to making damn sexy again, if it ever was.
Right. Excellent, man. Thank you for having me. Take care.